This news update has been compiled with content from socialistworld.net.
I'm Nick Schillingford, and this is a 3-minute news update. After 6 long months of bloody, protracted struggle, the overthrow of the dictatorial Gaddafi regime was greeted with rejoicing by large numbers of, but by no means all, Libyans. While many Libyans are celebrating, socialists have to be clear that unlike the ousting of Ben Ali in Tunisia and Mubarak in Egypt, the way in which Gaddafi has been removed means that a victory for the Libyan people was also a success for imperialism. Now, despite their fears of exactly which way events in Libya will unfold, the imperialist powers are attempting to present Libya as a success for liberal interventionism, i.e., their right to intervene in other countries on humanitarian or democratic grounds. Of course, this was always hypocritical, as liberal interventionism does not apply to imperialism's dictatorial friends and allies in Saudi Arabia, Yemen, or elsewhere. The NATO powers hope that, after the disaster of Afghanistan and Iraq, they can win justification for further interventions in defense of their own interests. The momentum of the Libyan revolution's early days was lost, and unlike Tunis or Cairo, Tripoli did not see one mass protest after another and strikes undermining the regime. This was not simply due to the Gaddafi regime's brutal repression of the mid-February protests. For example, repression has not immediately stopped the repeated demonstrations in Syria. Gaddafi, learning from the overthrow of Ben Ali and Mubarak, launched a counteroffensive against Benghazi and other centers of the revolution. These were certainly threatened, but could have been defended by mass popular defense alongside a revolutionary appeal to workers, youth, and the poor in the rest of Libya. But the self-appointed leadership of the uprising would do no such thing. Dominated by a combination of defectors from the regime and openly pro-imperialist elements, the Transitional National Council, TNC, pushing aside the initial popular mood against any foreign intervention, looked to the imperialist powers and semi-feudal Arab states for support. The very fluid situation that has now developed is, to a great extent, a result of the way in which the revolution has been diverted from a developing mass movement into a purely military struggle under NATO instruction. Libya itself is a relatively new creation, having been initially formed by Italy in the 1930s and again, this time under U.S. pressure in the late 1940s. A decline in the feeling of being Libyan alongside a growth of regional and tribal tensions could even pose the possibility of a breakup of Libya. For the Libyan masses, especially the youth, workers, and poor, this revolution was for an end to the oppression and the stifling corrupt regime and for higher living standards. But despite any immediate oil-funded concessions and rebuilding, these aims will in the long run come into conflict with the reality of the crisis-ridden capitalist economy. This is why Libyan workers and youth should have no illusions in NATO or put any trust in the TNC, which is, in essence, tied to imperialism.
This has been a 3-minute news update.